Is it his guy? Is it your guy? No, it's my guy. Yo! What's up, everybody? We're back. It's another episode. It's Too Much Fantasy Football. It's Brian. It's Brennan. It's the My Guy Show. Welcome in. How we doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. A couple shades bronze from Hawaii. So
nice.
Trying to follow suit like you, not to be burnt red.
Hey, you know what? I like the red. It makes me remember, hey, put some shit on your face. You're going to burn. But yes, we finally got him off his vacation. Of course, we had to pay him, get him out of here, have the great trip, paid by the company. Too much just doing all the great work for Brennan there while he hangs out. Brought in Mario, but you know what? It just wasn't the same. We had to bring it back. Bring back the chaos, and of course, it's the My Guy episode. We're going to bring forth our favorite QB, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. You ready to jump into it?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready. So ready that I need to take a second. You go ahead and start us off here. Give me that quarterback. Or I guess actually screw it. What position you want to start with? You want to go QB?
I mean, you already said it, so I guess I'll start with quarterback. So
fuck it. Let's do it.
Yeah. So my guy is currently being drafted as QB 11. It is the number 2 overall pick in this year's draft, Jaden Daniels. I think this guy is going to vastly outperform ADP. I mean, we watched him in preseason. He's looked sharp. I get it. It's preseason. But, when you watch him play, he looks very fluid. He doesn't look like a rookie out there. I mean, we saw that he's not afraid to run it right away. He had three attempts for 16 yards and a touchdown. I think, watching him throw the ball, I had no issues. I was a little, hesitant, obviously. But with him, I think with guys that are going near him, so the guys that are going ahead of him, that I think he will for sure outperform are, Dak, Jordan Love, Joe Burrow. These guys don't have that rushing upside that Jaden has shown, obviously, throughout his collegiate career. I just think if you're going to swing for the fences in your home league, I think Jaden Daniels is the guy that I'd rather go for instead of drafting guys like Joe Burrow, Dak, and Jordan, or even Brock Purdy for that matter.
But he's a rookie, though. Shouldn't we be doubting that?
No, I don't think so.
He just lost a piece. He just lost one of his best receivers.
Yeah, that is true. He did lose Jahan Dotson, but I just feel like, I don't want to say Jahan Dotson is a bust, but when you get traded for a 3rd-round pick when you were a 1st-rounder, I just kind of screams like where they're heading in that direction. It seems like they really like, Dimey Brown. They also like Luke McCaffrey a lot. So I think this team is going to be really more heavily centric around Jaden Daniels, the RPOs, and Terry McLaurin. Maybe he might be a thing this year. I don't expect that, but I expect Jaden Daniels to definitely be a higher ceiling rushing floor.
I like it. I'm right there with you. I love the late round snag. I kind of compare him to what we can see from Anthony Richardson, and you have to pay a lot more for that guy. Granted, we pay it. You see the Colts apparel with us too. We're willing to pay it. We're stupid. But as he's saying here, go grab the late round and get Jaden Daniels. I love the pick. Super excited for the guy. But not as excited as my guy, who's more expensive, which maybe I should have gone first because your guy is just a discount of my guy. But Kyler freaking Murray. Yep, there's no preamble. We're jumping right to it. Kyler Murray, quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals. I think this guy, now that he has Marvin Harrison Jr., a number 1 in the offense, something he's been lacking since D-Hop, Last year, he had the hampered injury. He had an offensive line that was just atrocious. Nothing exciting. He still averaged 18.3 points per contest. This guy's got one of the highest overall career averages per game in the fantasy space. He scored 5.3 points per game on the ground alone. He's now reached 4.9 points per contest via rush in 5 seasons in the league. 4 of the 5 years that he's done it. It's hard to compete with that. When these guys, we talk about how much they can do with their ceiling, the explosive nature of the players, but in all honesty, it's all about the floor. You can see these pocket passers, they go out and have a 3-interception game, they're done. They're toast. They're going to give you below 10 points, 8 points, and that can absolutely wreck a week. But when you're starting with a baseline, 4.9 points per game, that's just there on the floor. You get 200, 300 yards on there too, even with some interceptions. And it's that protection you want. And as my mom told me when I was growing up, Brian, wear your race helmet. And that's what you want when you draft a quarterback. You know, you want a little safety. You want to make sure that you're going into your draft with a nice floor. And you know what, folks? Kyler Murray does that for you.
Yes, he does. I'm so glad your mom told you to put your helmet on every day, bud. No, I don't. I don't think Kyler. I think where Kyler is going in drafts, like you're either going to take like your RB2 or your wide receiver 3, and so I think at that point in the draft, like I'd rather take someone who's basically going as the QB anywhere from like the QB5 to QB 7-8 range, and I think that's just a better discount for you. So like I like where he's going right now. I know he's basically where I said he's going. I just think you're going to get 4 games with him of being like 16 points just because of the rushing aspect of it. So I think he's a lot viable. I know there's injury risk with him, but there's injury risk with everybody. I don't think we expected, Dak Prescott that year to snap his ankle. Like it's just injuries happen. You don't draft for injuries. You draft for the player.
And with that being said, we had 2 of the biggest statues tear Achilles last year, so don't come at me with injuries, folks. Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers went down, and they don't do a bit of running.
No.
Alrighty. Who's your next guy? I'm excited.
All right, so my next guy, he's currently RB17 on Fantasy Pros. He's going around like basically the 5th round, the first overall pick in sleeper. It's Alvin Kamara. And so everyone's kind of hesitant towards Alvin Kamara just because he's older. He's 29 years old, so the cliff is bound to hit at some point. But when you look at the Saints team overall, like what is their weakest point? Like if you had to pick, I mean, people might say quarterback, which I get it, that's a possibility, but their offensive line is terrible. I mean, what did we see last season with Alvin Kamara? We just saw him just getting dump offs. I quite frankly don't see that changing. Like, I mean, if you look at it, when he came back week 4, his first game, he had 13 receptions. Granted, if you're playing in the standard league, that doesn't mean anything, but your half point, that's 6.5 points right there for 33 yards. I get it, but still, if you're playing a full point PPR, that's 13 points. I mean, like he had 13, 3, 7, 12, 4, 4, 7. It just stayed the same throughout the entire time, and I don't see anybody challenging him for touches. Obviously, Dennis Allen had some really, really nice words to say about Kendre Miller. And I'm kidding about that. He basically said that he can't make the team from the training room. So I don't see anybody challenging him for snaps. I see him being out there as a full bell cow running back. I mean, the guys that are going ahead of him in that standard where he's going currently, let's see here. Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker, Rashad White, James Cook, Josh Jacobs. I think he can score just as many points as those guys can. And you're getting him at the end of it. So I think he's getting a little bit of discount.
A little bit. Yeah, there's that argument that his rushing efficiency has gone down every year over the last 3 years. Who cares? That's not the point we're making at all here, folks. Or Brennan's making here. It's all about the targets. This guy was top 3 in points per game, and you're getting him in the 5th round. Versus the 2 other guys that were doing that were going in the 1st and 2nd round. So it's hard not to click on an Alvin Kamara when you have question marks around, like you said, all those other guys going around. David Montgomery, Aaron Jones, James Conner. I guess my biggest fear, what about Taysom Hill? Come on. He's going to be stealing a little bit of work there, right?
Yes, he will. He's going to be like, it's like he's the Cordell Patterson for the Saints. He's just going to take away those like weird touchdowns. You're just like, why?
I hear he is going to miss a couple games in the middle of the season, though. He's taking Dennis Allen's daughter to homecoming, so he won't be able to make it for those games. But there's got to be some love there. Dennis Allen just will not get off the nuts of Taysom Hill. Like, good on it. I love that he's out there. He makes all these leagues better when you can play him as a tight end. But goodness, like what are we doing in New Orleans?
Taysom Hill, a pedophile.
Well, I didn't say he's sleeping with her. I said he's going to homecoming with her. And it could be a college homecoming dance, right? They have those.
I don't know.
I didn't make it through halftime of college football games when I was there, so I don't really know what happened after. But no, we're not calling him a pedophile. Not intentionally, anyway. Marker. All right. Time to bring in my guy. And you know what, folks? I tried my damnedest. I wanted to grab a top 20, top 24 guy. I didn't want to get cute. I didn't want to be digging down to the bottom of the barrel, because that's not what this episode is. This is my guys that you love. I started going through the catalog. all the episodes I've been doing, all the best ball I've been going through. Because this guy had the genius idea, hey, just pick him out of your exposure. Well, that's smart. That shows me who I like. And damn it, if we're not doing another video about this kid. Simply put, the ADP is just redonkulous. Where you're getting him, he's all the way at running back 32 on Sleeper right now, going in the 9th round. He is past guys like Zach Moss, Brian Robinson, Javonte Williams. And this kid's got a brand new coach. Yes, he's got a brand new coach, a guy that loves to throw the ball. Last year, his head coach was an OC with the Bengals, actually, in neutral game scripts where, you know, the team is within 6 points. He threw it at the 3rd highest rate. And you're like, Brian, but he's got Joe Burrow. Of course he did. No. We're talking the first year he was there in Cincinnati. The first year without Joe Burrow. This is what he was doing in neutral game scripts. That looks great for this guy. What else? We're looking at a 14.8% target share for a wide receiver. No, I'm talking about for a running back here. This guy's got a all-new offensive line head coach, or offensive line coach, one of the best there is. They got a top 6 tackle in the draft, and I'm talking about No, pass him along. We're talking Tajae Spears here, folks. The young running back there in Tennessee. The guy I just cannot get enough. I get it. He's late. That's the great thing. It's baked into the cost. So what I know this kid's going to do, what I think I know this kid's going to do, wherever you want to line that up, I just think that his price is baked. It's so far down there. He is actually absolutely going to smash. I see him finishing top 15, maybe even higher, but at least giving us a top 24 running back. Tajae Spears.
I think I'm on the other end of that stick because, it's weird. Like they paid, they were one of the teams, just like the Bears, the Eagles. They went and they signed immediately Tony Pollard. So I was like, okay, so now Tajae Spears gets moved back in the pecking order of things, and I was like, all right, because they paid Tony Pollard some decent money, but all I've heard out of Brian Callahan saying this is a 50-50 split. So now it's like, okay. Clearly, he sees Tajae Spears has talent, and so I don't, to draft him where he's at, I think it's a discount because he could very well take over that backfield, and Tony Pollard could just be a forgotten thought. I just think for me, I'm a little hesitant, but if you do go wide receiver heavy in your draft, and you fill out your quarterbacks, Tajae Spears is a guy I definitely could see myself targeting just because it's there's the upside for it. I mean, the only thing that does kind of scare me a little bit, though, he does have, I think he had arthritis in college in his knee, and it ain't gone away. So,
hey, Todd Gurley had the same thing, and he lasted at least 5 seasons. So this is season 2. We're good, folks. I think that's the sense of security is, honestly, he's saying he's a starter. He's saying he's a 1A, a 1B with Tony Pollard. Even at 50% work, I'm okay with that because I know that he is the more explosive back of the two. So then we're just gambling with that upside of, hey, he's going to take over more touches. Tony Pollard did not look great last year. We don't see historically running backs switching teams on their second contract that really blow up. We see a lot of these Tony Pollard, Alexander Madison types that, they just need their starter to get out of the way so they can blow up. We see it all the time. And as soon as they get there, doesn't much happen. Tony Pollard's on the older side of the guy that comes into the NFL too. So there's so much baked in, and I feel so good about Tajae Spears, where he's going and what you need from him in return. Like you said, you take a running back first 2 rounds, I can punt the position for several rounds, going all the way into round 9 and grab him. Yeah, then I'll clean up running back. So Tajae Spears, nice little warm spot in my heart.
No,
what you got for me? Wide receiver.
All right, so my wide receiver, he's currently wide receiver 35 on Fantasy Pros. He's going at basically the end of the 7th round, beginning of the 8th round. It is the new acquired wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers. It is Deontay Johnson. I think Deontay Johnson is where he is going currently as the wide receiver 35. I think he vastly outperforms that. We saw what Adam Thielen did in this putrid offense. He was, I think at one point, he was wide receiver 6 going into week 8. And I just think with a better play caller in Dave Canales, which we saw him revive not only Geno, but Baker Mayfield and their respective teams, I think Bryce Young is talented. I think that people forget, this kid is, the reason why he was drafted was because he's very, very smart. It's not because he's got the greatest arm. He doesn't run the ball. He's obviously 5'10", weighs under 200 pounds. But,
right, that wasn't hiding somewhere in the draft process. They knew how big he was.
Yeah, exactly. They saw it because he was smart, and he went through his progressions. And I think they did a horrific job of giving him, they went and signed Adam Thielen to a 3-year, $33 million deal and said, yeah, that's our wide receiver one. And that's what they went with. And I just think they understood they need to get him another playmaker. And Deontay Johnson's very good at getting open, short yardage. And I think that's what Bryce Young's going to do. He's just going to pepper him with targets, pepper him with receptions. So I think his floor, honestly, for Deontay Johnson is finishing as a wide receiver 2. I think he finishes as a wide receiver 24 in the year. And you're getting him at wide receiver 35. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be this amazing guy who's going to break a top 10, but I think he vastly outperforms ADP. And you're going to be happy with that because you're getting him so late. And you're going to start him, and he'll be your wide receiver 2, and you don't have to worry about it. I'd say he's a discounted Christian Kirk. That's the best way to describe him.
And like you said, Adam Thielen proved that you can get top 20 performances out of the guy. So there's more pieces around it. They did bring in first-round pick. First-round pick. Last pick of the draft, Liget. Yeah, so they've got him. Jonathan Mingo, second year. Maybe he turns into at least a role player because we didn't see much from him last year. But this team should be on the more positive side of most game scripts compared to where they were last year. Overall, probably not. But I'm really excited. I will say Deontay Johnson was in the pool consideration for me. His ADP this summer has been just sorry, I'm drooling just at the thought of it. It's pretty wild right now. Get your bow on yours. You ready to wrap that thing up, put it under the tree?
Yep.
Cool, because I'm ready to tear into mine. Let's talk about my wide receiver now. His name has just 2 letters in it, so nice little hint there. Won't tell you everything right now. Sleeper, he's going at 406, ESPN 311, and Yahoo 311. This is a guy, he's a great addition to maybe your wide receiver 2, maybe even a wide receiver 3 for you in your draft. He's going to crush it. Absolutely crush it. This is a touchdown guy. Since he's come into the league, he has the 3rd highest red zone attempt or end zone targets since he came into the league in 2019. His offensive coordinator Grubb that they just brought in town, he knows how to work 3 wide receivers. We saw him do it last year at the University of Washington. He ranked in the top 10 of passing in college football both of the last 2 years. So, that's what we want. Pete Carroll's out of town. Let's throw the ball. Let's get it moving. This O-line is the cheapest in the NFL. They did not do great last year, but we had a lot of injuries. So I still think there is some excitement to see what we can truly get. They spent first-round picks on tackles, on guards, so we're excited to kind of get that rolling. But the offensive ranked 5th in pre-snap penalties last year. Geno's not good at digging himself out of holes. So when you've got a bad offensive line, plus you have those pre-snap penalties, it shoots yourself in the foot, which that's kind of where we saw a lot of the regression come from this offense. End of the day, I don't really see them being maybe a top half offense, top 20, but in attempts, I definitely see them being up there. They are going to toss the ball down there. DK Metcalf just gave us a highlight reel just a couple days ago in the preseason game, going up there and pulling it down. I think this guy is going to have a monster season on the back of touchdowns, so give me DK Metcalf. What did I say? Mid-4th? Into the 3rd? Absolutely love it. Give me that turn, 3-4 all day long.
No, I agree. I just took him in my big money league just past Saturday. I took him in the middle of the 3rd round. I took him over guys like Cooper Kupp. Trying to think of other names like Amari Cooper, where he's being drafted at. I love DK Metcalf this year. I think we're getting him at a discount. I think I do love when Grubb came in. I think he described it perfectly. He described DK being the Rome Odunze, and he described Jalen Polk being Tyler Lockett, and then McMillan being Jackson Smith-Njigba. But obviously, who was the biggest factor of everybody there was Rome Odunze. So I think Rome Odunze put up some serious numbers in college, and I expected to basically replicate over into the NFL. And everyone's kind of worried about Geno Smith missing time. Like, Sam Howell is a viable guy. We just saw him, chuck the ball the most in all of NFL.
Right.
So I have no issues with where DK Metcalf is going, and I expect him to finish. I think he finishes a top 10 wide receiver this year.
Yeah, outside of his rookie season, he's finished in the top 22 every single season. And still, his rookie year, he was in the high 30s. So, it's always been a wide receiver 3 or higher, usually wide receiver 1 or 2. So, I think this is a season. He's 26 years old. I know he's been in the league forever, but he's not that old, folks. He's coming into his prime, scarily enough. All right, give me that tight end. It's tight end talk now. My favorite.
It is tight end talk. So, my guy, he was a first-round pick last year. I believe this team traded up against another team to snipe him before he went elsewhere. It is Dalton Kincaid for the Buffalo Bills. He's currently being taken as in the middle of the fourth. I'm sorry, no, he's going to like late, early fifth round pick. My apologies there. But last year, once we saw Dawson Knox get injured, I believe it was like week 7, we saw this guy comfortably taken to the offense. I mean, I'll just read you a stat line on week 7. He had 8 receptions, 75 yards, 5 receptions, 65 yards, and a touchdown, 10 receptions, 81 yards. I believe Kincaid came back at 8 in a little bit of it, but 5 receptions, 51 yards, 6 receptions, 46 yards. I mean, this guy was clearly the guy he was looking at after Stephon Diggs had that fall off. And then not only did that, matter for him, but even in the playoff game, I think he had close to 100 yards and a touchdown. I think it's going to roll into this season that, if you're trying to chase who's going to be the leading receiver targets in Buffalo, they drafted Keon Coleman with the 33rd overall pick, which is basically a first rounder. To me, Keon Coleman screams Quentin Johnston in the making. I'm not saying he's going to be that bad, but I just think with where you're going to take him, I think you'll be very disappointed. I mean, we've seen Curtis Samuel in the league a few times. I don't see how he ends up being the leading guy, and everyone's, has their Khalil Shakir love. I just think with the talent of where they took Dalton Kincaid and what he's already shown, I think with him being the tight end 5, we could easily see him finish as a top 3, top 2, even 1 at the end of the year.
I love the call. I think the situation for him, you built it up perfectly. Like, that's just the way you need to look at it. There are a handful of these tight ends that are going in the top 8, and I don't believe they have the ceiling that you can get from a guy that is the bona fide number 1. Sam Laporta, absolutely love the guy. He will never be the number 1 on that team. Or he won't be this year anyway, with that, outside of injury. But guys like Travis Kelce, he's the number 1. Mark Andrews, he's the number 1. Dalton Kincaid, he's the number 1. So I think it fits perfectly. The ADP, it fluctuates wherever you're at. So I think it's all about the deal for me when I grab him. But he is one of the top tight ends that I want to go for.
Yeah, I think it's another thing too is that I think this year, I think you and I both can agree, like, either the guys we've mentioned in the top 5 can finish as the 1, but you just don't want to be the first guy to take that tight end 1. Like, you don't want to be the guy to take Laporta in the 3rd because now everybody else is a discount, in my opinion. Like, I think getting Travis Kelce in like the early 4th is a discount because, like, well, I didn't take him as the first tight end. Same with Mark Andrews, same with Trey McBride. Like, I think in Dalton Kincaid's typically the 5th one out of those guys, and you're getting him, at a decent value, and who could basically just get 1,000 yards, anywhere from 6 to 8 touchdowns. That's a steal, in my opinion.
It's weird how that works. Like, you can almost get these tight ends almost anywhere, but if you take the first one, you didn't get a discount at all.
No, it is really weird.
All righty, my tight end. It's that time. All right, everybody watching the video, I need everyone who's been a Kyle Pitts believer to be on this side of the room for me, because you've been hurt, you've been burned a little bit, and then everybody who's new to the team, come on over, because that's where I'm at. And Kyle Pitts, what more can there, like, this guy's going to year 4. He's 23 years old. So for everybody that's sitting over here and you've been burned, calm down. We typically don't see these guys breaking out that early. It takes a little bit of time. So he's still young, and yet he broke 1,000 freaking yards his first year. Why? Because he had a quarterback. Old and busted Matt Ryan, but he still had a quarterback. Like, when it comes down to it, this guy, no one has more air yards left out on the field last year than this guy. 1,000 yards, air yards, just. And then we can culminate that with the ability of actual offensive production, them being a top 15 team, top 16 team. You put that together, that's touchdowns, that's yards, that's receptions. We've got Kirk Cousins. That's what we just made. We pushed all that stuff together. We made Kirk Cousins. Out of those 1,000 air yards that he had, only 64% of Kyle Pitts passes last year were catchable. That's 37 in the NFL. It's absolutely atrocious. I pulled up some stats over 2022 and 2023 off-target rates. Kyle Pitts was at a 19% rate for off-target throws. The league average for tight ends was only 9.2. That's horrible, like absolutely horrible. But you want to say, oh, Kirk Cousins is coming in. How does that correlate? Oh, TJ Hawkinson with Kirk Cousins had a 4.6 off-target rate. You're getting one of the guys that throws one of the best deep balls in the game, and you're bringing him with Kyle Pitts, one of the most athletic, the fastest, the craziest kid we've seen come into the combine with Kyle Pitts. It's just absolutely I don't know. There's not many tight ends that you can make an argument outside of the top 5 guys that can finish number 1. I think that's Kyle Pitts this year. I think he absolutely can finish top overall, and like a huge gap too, like a huge separation gap. Of course, that's his ultimate ceiling of ceilings, but with the price it's paid, I'm okay with wherever he falls top 5.
I mean, I personally have never drafted Kyle Pitts in the years that he's been in the league. I've just
Cool. You're over here with me.
Yeah, so like I actually I'm on, like I don't mind drafting this year, but I do know tons of people who are just like, I've been burned, don't want to do it again, and I get it. It's like that whole Le'Veon Bell situation where you drafted him first overall and you didn't play. I don't think it's the same situation. I think you're getting him a tight end 8 this year. Typically, is where he's going.
Yeah,
and there's a chance he finishes one of those top 5 guys. So like, yeah, I absolutely think that Kyle Pitts, he's clearly talented. He was taken 4th overall in the draft he was taken, and like I have no issues taking him. I think there will be those homer guys that do take Kyle Pitts and who do believe in the Kirk Cousins, Sean McVay tree line of offense. And so I don't have an issue with it. I think there's a good chance that Kyle Pitts finishes top 5.
And I'm here for it. I want it to go down because, talk about exposures that are a little too high. It's Kyle Pitts for me this year. He may ruin my season. And hey, then I'll be sitting over there with all y'all that hate him. So. So that's our my guys. Looking pretty good. Let me wrap up mine. So I've got Kyler Murray, Tajae Spears, DK Metcalf, and Kyle Pitts, of course. Brennan, who you got? Remind the folks.
So my quarterback is Jaden Daniels. My running back is Alvin Kamara. My wide receiver is Deontay Johnson. And my tight end is Dalton Kincaid.
That's a pretty good one, too. Not as good as mine, but almost. That's pretty darn good. And, of course, with these my guys, I didn't do it because I'm not that confident, but Brennan is putting a stamp on these my guys. So much so that if you draft any of these players and you lose your league, he will personally reimburse your fantasy stipend that you had to put in your league. I know. What a guy. What a guy. Come in here at Too Much Fantasy Football. That's what we give you, folks.
Yeah, it's coming out of the company credit card, so please go ahead and charge that thing.
Because I'll talk to Tyler. I think I misplaced that. Before we get out of here, Brennan, tell the folks where can they find you.
So I'm on X, FFAN BMulk, and then I am in the Fantasy Football Advice Network Facebook group where I respond back to most of you guys' questions about Dynasty or redraft or who you should take. So in either of those spots.
Whoop, there he is. I am on X. You looking for a little action over there? That's this guy at @too_much_Brian. And of course, all over here on the Fantasy Football Advice Network. We're going to be dropping shows 4 and 5 a week. We've got a waiver wire live stream we're going to have. It's going to be so much fun. We're days away, man. Days away. A couple more episodes before the season starts. But until then, we'll see y'all next time.